video is sponsored by Cake Wallet, the easiest open source wallet to store Bitcoin, Monero, and Litecoin securely on mobile and desktop devices. When buying, selling, and exchanging crypto or trading for gift cards, Cake Wallet ensures privacy and security, giving you the keys to your coins. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Randi Hipper Show. I'm your host here today, and we're going to get into a really lovely guest. But right before we talk to our lovely guest, make sure you guys smash the likes, subscribe to the channel, share the stream out with friends so more people know what's going on, and also check out our amazing sponsor, Cake Wallet. Now, I'm not going to waste any more time as you guys are coming in. Hello, everybody. We're going to say hello to the one and only Lark Davis, a.k.a. the Crypto Lark. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to talk to you.
Of course, of course. And you're a staple influencer or content creator in this space. You're consistently putting things out there, which I highly respect you for, because grinding between the ups, downs, the in-betweens, where people usually leave because it's too much work, you stick around and you continue grinding and informing people about what's going on in the space. I know you're highly looked up to, but before we get into who Crypto Lark is, we're going to do a little bit of a rewind in the timeline and go back to Lark Davis when you were in high school. What was that like, and what did you think your life was going to lead up to?
It's interesting because when I was in high school, none of this existed. None of this technology existed. I couldn't imagine being a full-time content creator on YouTube because there was no YouTube back then, right? It's interesting to think back to the 90s and when I was growing up and my first experience on the internet. That was very interesting because we had this thing called web TV, which was like this big modem box you plugged in, you plugged your phone line into it back when we had landline phones. I know, I'm not that old, guys, but old enough. Anyway, you plug that in, and you couldn't use the phone at the same time because somebody was using the internet. And I started off doing stuff like trading cards. So I would trade Magic the Gathering cards on sort of old school forums and stuff like that. And it was quite the interesting experience. So I was very much involved in the early days of doing fun stuff online. Started selling stuff on eBay when I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
So that was fun. Oh, yeah. That was back in the day. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Stayed involved. And I got out of sort of that sort of stuff in my early 20s. Didn't really do it anymore for a while. But it was very interesting to think that I am where I am right now. And thanks to all of this technology, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? We all do when we're making any kind of content, because none of this stuff is possible without all the technological innovation we've had over the last few years. So it's wild. I couldn't have imagined doing what I do right now when I was that age. Certainly not and certainly not having the opportunities, right? Because I grew up in a very small town in America. I live in New Zealand. I've lived here for most of my life, but we moved
awesome.
when I was 16. And the town is in the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania. And it is one of the poorest regions of the United States.
Wow.
The town where I grew up was something like the average wage was something like 50% below the poverty line or something like this. So it gives you an idea of like how it's an ex-coal mining town. It's a small ex-coal mining town, right? So this is, thankfully, my mom got us out of there. I moved to New Zealand, which was like totally not her MO without a doubt. But she just one day is like, "We're moving to New Zealand." Like, okay, mom.
Wow. Where did that even come from?
It's just general paranoia around the government, and this was the early 2000s. So this is 2001 when we moved, but it's interesting because the 9/11 thing happened, and she had already been sort of thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't stay in America, and she got hit by a school bus when she was driving to work one day.
Oh my gosh.
Which was terrible, right? And she got a bit messed up from that, but she got an accident settlement out of that, which is not, hindsight, it's not that much money. It was enough money to make a change in our lives.
Yeah.
And so she decided to do that. And so she'd been looking at different places we could possibly go and all this sort of stuff. And, nothing had really pushed her over the edge. Like, I've got to do this until 9/11 happened. And on the morning, the first thing I hear about 9/11 is, wake up, America's under attack. We're going to get our passports. We're leaving. And so within 6 weeks, we'd sold everything in the States, moved to New Zealand.
Holy wow, that's a quick flip.
Yeah, well, she got motivated, so off we went.
So you remember the whole morning of 9/11, because everybody that was, because obviously I was a few years after that, so everyone that was alive during 9/11 knows where they were and, how they experienced it. So what was your 9/11 experience?
Well, it was interesting because the first thing I did is I ran and got a gun, and she's like, no, 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 they're not attacking here. They're attacking in New York and stuff, but we have to go get our
Got a
passports.
gun.
I know. I just, what am I gonna do with my 22 hunting rifle, right? Anyway, but just the irrational sort of thoughts.
Yeah.
And so we went, got dressed, drove down to the passport office, which was basically you have like your county council building or whatever, and that's where they do passports in the county. So we
Yeah.
drove there and we're getting passports, and the lady's like, oh, you guys planning on going on holiday or something like that?
Wow.
And they have the TV playing in the background with like the nonstop loop of the plane going into the tower. Mom's like, no, we're leaving and we're never coming back.
I can't believe that. What kind of a move was that for you at 16? Because like you're like a teenager, you're in high school, like all your friends are up to like partying, hanging out, getting to know each other, and you're just leaving for a whole other country. What was that like?
Obviously, when it happened, I wasn't excited about it. I was like, I don't want to go leave all my buddies behind and stuff like that. But in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, because at the time I was on a pretty bad trajectory. I got into homeschooling, so internet homeschooling at the time, which was one of the first internet homeschools in America, actually, by the
Wow.
way. And I could do my work on my computer and stuff, but that just opened the door for massive amounts of alcohol and drug abuse, because I could just do whatever I want whenever I wanted, as long as I got my homework done. Right.
Oh.
So I was, hanging out with a lot of people who were like me. My mom was a single mom. It's a very complicated story, but I was very much in the statistic of how kids end up with single mom households. And a lot of my other friends were alcoholic dads, single moms, and we're all just running wild around the neighborhood. And so moving to New Zealand is one of the best things that ever happened to me and got me out of that world that I was stuck in at the time. And I think there's no way I'd be where I am today had we not left.
You know what? Then good that you did, because when you get caught up in that, it's very hard to leave unless you're literally ripped from that situation. Which, yeah, in that case, you're lucky you were. And were all your problems kind of resolved when you moved to New Zealand, or were you kind of just still figuring things out?
You're a teenager still figuring things out, but I think removing myself from that sort of toxic environment really, really helped. And I started to get much more curious about life again, and wasn't, drinking all. I mean, it's amazing how much alcohol you can acquire when you're 15 or 16 years
Oh, it's
old.
very easy.
It's a lot easier than people. Anyway, but I really started getting back into interesting stuff and focusing more on. I think I was reading like Warren Buffett's biography and stuff like this, and learning about the stock markets and all this sort of stuff back then, and reading and digesting information. I finally had time and clarity to do it again. So it was very good overall.
And in New Zealand, what kind of vibe is that compared to the U.S.? Like, do you think like there's nicer people there? Is the economy better? Is the leadership better? I know you mentioned government.
I mean, look, politics is always a bit of a tricky scenario, right? But realistically, New Zealand's just a very chill place. It's funny because I went back to the States briefly to visit friends and family for like 6 weeks or something when I was 17. And after a couple of days of, just partying with my buddies and stuff, like, I got to get out of here. I get back to New Zealand. What is this? What is this? I got to go. I got to go. I got to get out of here. And because for me, again, going back into that toxic environment was not healthy for me. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just a chill place, New Zealand. It's got its problems like every country in the world, obviously. But I think compared to, I would never move back to the United States. Can't now anyway, if I'm not a citizen anymore. But I would never move back. New Zealand's just so much nicer.
Yeah,
To
I
be
mean,
honest,
listen,
so many fewer problems.
is it like beachy, or is it like mountainous where you're living, or do you like nature? Is that a nice part of where you live, or are you like in a city type of vibe?
We're in a small town. Well, small city, we should say. It's definitely a city. It's the capital of the country, and it's pretty mellow. It's pretty mellow vibes. Very green. It's sort
Oh,
of mountains
nature.
rolling into the sea. Yeah, it's very nice
Isn't
here. It's
that
very nice where
nice?
we live. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a nice spot where we live. It's cooler here in the center part of the country, so it's not. A lot of people imagine New Zealand's almost like sort of like, oh, it's like a tropical beach destination. Like, no part of the country is tropical, without a doubt. But then if you go farther north in the country, it's actually quite nice on the beaches. We do have beaches here, but you don't really want to go in the water because it's usually pretty cold. We're too close to Antarctica, I like to say.
Oh wow.
But we have lots of beautiful mountains in New Zealand and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, where we live, beautiful view of the city and the harbor and mountains and stuff like that.
We
So
love nature. I don't have any nature here. I have like, buildings in New York, so I just see like little patches of grass every so often, and there might be some dogs that mess with that. So you can't really sit in it. There's no real nature here. So I'm happy for you that you
yeah.
do have nice fresh air to kind of take in there. And then kind of going through your 20s, did you go to college? What was that journey like for you? You were reading about Warren Buffett and all these rich people. Did you go down finance route?
I actually started getting really interested in politics. So I actually went and got a master's
Oh.
degree in political studies with minors in French and Spanish. And it's interesting because at the end of my 5-year, master's degree program, bachelor's, and then a master's degree, 3-year bachelor's in New Zealand, then 2-year master's degree. So at the end of my whole sort of experience, I had learned enough that I want nothing to do with politics. I never want to work in any political organization. The UN's terrible.
It's so bad.
At the time, one of my buddies was trying, oh man, you should go work for like the U.S. State Department or something. I was like, no, it's terrible. How could I do
No.
that? How could I possibly like live with myself after by doing that? Like, it's so foreign to me, all
No.
this stuff. And I said, oh, I could go work at Amnesty International or something like that. And I was on the track to do something potentially like that. I was the president of our university group for Amnesty International, and I was very tight with all the sort of Amnesty International crew and stuff like that. And I very easily could have got the 1-year unpaid internship that could have potentially turned into some, minimum wage job later on. And I just thought, man, what the heck? Why would I do this to myself? I'm just setting myself up for a life of just pushing shit uphill for no money. Like, what's the point? So I just
Yeah.
took off. I moved and just went on an adventure.
It's a dirty game, politics, man. It
It
really
really is.
is. Like, what, everyone's like, run for this, run for that. I'm like, I cannot even conceptualize being in politics because it doesn't matter what you do, you're wrong. And, it's just a dirty game with the way people get paid, all the money that's involved. It's a murky freaking waters. I'll stay out of that one
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. I'll help you, sure. You want to talk about crypto? We'll talk about crypto. But besides that, I'm good. See ya. And you're leaving politics. You're like, I don't want anything to do with this. So what was your next step?
So I actually moved overseas for a few years. I went and lived in Ukraine for a year, teaching
Oh,
English. Interesting. This is before all the shit went down. This was
very.
2012, moved to Ukraine. And then in 2013, I moved to Russia and lived in Sochi and then St. Petersburg after that. So I was teaching English. So it's a very interesting life experience. I just wanted to go out and do something different and, not sort of think about all that sort of stuff. Just live life, have experiences, travel adventures. That's what I went and did. And it's interesting because, the first time I actually heard about Bitcoin was when I was a tutor at university. And I remember sitting in the politics tutor's office and we were talking about Bitcoin, some of the guys. And I don't think any of us bought Bitcoin, by the way, at the time. But we were talking about it, and I was thinking, it's really interesting. I was like, but I kind of need beer money for this weekend because, it's gonna be a party and stuff. And then I didn't really think about it very much after that. I kind of kept an eye on it. I had this sort of foreign exchange app, XC.com, on my phone. So I'd always have Bitcoin there. So I'd see what the price of Bitcoin was doing along with like the US dollar, New Zealand dollar, euro, whatever,
Yeah.
Russian ruble. So I'd kind of keep a distant glance on it. And then in 2017, I said, enough's enough. I'm going to that's it. Time to buy Bitcoin, time to go in, and it's time to start. And my mom kind of pushed me because she'd been watching this guy, Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, who's sort of a big content creator, sort of like the, I don't know, liberty-minded, freedom space, whatever. And he was talking about Bitcoin and stuff a lot. I'm sure he probably still does. I haven't seen his content in a while, but she was very much into that. She's like, you got to get into the Bitcoin stuff, Lark. Okay, I'll
Your
take
mom
another
is
look at it.
amazing. What a superstar this woman is.
She's definitely a very unique person, without a doubt. And so I started going down that rabbit hole of, okay, bought my first Bitcoin. Now what? Okay, now I'm going to buy some shit coins. Okay, now what? And then I started thinking, well, I really want to be involved more in crypto and start doing stuff. And I remember at the time I bought a Litecoin miner, which took like a couple months to arrive. But then it got there and I realized I live in an apartment and it's like super loud. So like I had to sell it immediately because it's like super loud.
What year was that? So that was
Anyway,
2017. You were trying to mine
that was
Litecoin?
17.
Wow,
Yeah, that was
wow,
2017.
wow. What a
That was a good
time.
time. I know. So, but I started creating content on the Steem
Sheesh.
blockchain, STEEM. I don't know if it's
No
still a thing or
way.
not.
Oh
if
gosh.
it still uses that or not, but this was back in the day, right? If you even know what that is, you've been around in crypto for a while. So anyways, I
Yes.
started posting stuff, just random stuff, like, okay, I went to this vineyard last weekend. Let's do a review of the vineyard and stuff. And so, people would get the occasional upvotes on that, make a few bucks. And one time I made like $20 or something. Like, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. Let's make more content. And so I started making a lot of crypto content. And of course, that did very well because it's a crypto native platform. And then I started thinking, man, it's taking way too much time to post all this crap, write everything down. Like, if I just talk and share my ideas and what I'm learning, and of course, the way of documenting my journey and learning about stuff. Like, okay, I'm learning about IOTA coin now. So what am I learning about it? What's my opinion on it? What do I, as a newbie in the markets back then? And I started posting those on YouTube. And then without even really thinking about it, the YouTube channel started taking off. And so I didn't really come into all this thinking like, I'm going to start this giant business, which is now a giant business with a bunch of employees and our newsletter and our courses and all this stuff. And it's interesting how it all sort of just evolves over time.
Yep. That's what I love about crypto is that it's such a journey, and that there was, even becoming a content creator, we're so early in that, and a lot of people think it's already oversaturated, but we're at this point where we could become a part of the internet. Like, we're a part of crypto, and definitely what you're doing makes you a part of the movement because you've been here for so long, creating content since like 2017. That's a huge move. And then going through the ups, the downs, the bear markets, you coming in 2017, hardcore, making content, seeing Bitcoin go to 20K, come right back down in 2018. Why did you continue to stay? What made you stay in the space?
It's interesting because I quit my day job in November 2017.
Oh,
Right.
baller on the
So
way up.
I went all in. I went all in. I'm going all in on this. And what's interesting is that, obviously the bear market came basically 2 months later, because really the bear market starts from the peak price down.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
when the bear market
It
starts.
was
It
like
doesn't
two
feel
months
like it at the
after.
time. Yeah. So 2018 was hard, but I just, for me, giving up was never, absolutely just never even in the cards. I never thought about it, because once I'd sort of red pill myself on Bitcoin and sort of crypto more broadly, I was like, there's no way I can walk away from this. It's going to be one of the biggest industries on the planet. It's going to be massive beyond what most people can even imagine at this point. And we are early. And I just need to keep showing up, keep making content, keep trying to perfect my craft and educate people and all that kind of stuff. And there's been lots of experimentations on content styles and all this stuff throughout the years. And there's definitely moments in like 2018, like at the bottom of the bear market, where I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. But even then, like, I remember it was, gosh, a couple days after we hit bottom in December 2018, I went on a trip to Australia with my wife, and we went and did like a 3-day challenge of living on Bitcoin in Australia.
That is so sick.
Yeah, it's like whatever, like, it doesn't matter what the price is doing, because none of this stuff's going away. And it was a really interesting trip. We paid for most of it in Bitcoin. There were a couple things, but there was actually like a travel agency in Brisbane. I don't know if they're still there or not, but they helped us pay for the plane tickets using Bitcoin, and we rented our car using Bitcoin. And there was this little town, and I don't know if they're still doing anything or not, but there was this little town on the east coast of Australia in Queensland, called 1882 or something like that. It's some date. It's the name of the town. And they were trying to do this big Bitcoin initiative to get people interested in Common Core. It's a tricky time for them to roll out that initiative. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but you could basically go to any restaurant or hotel in that town and pay in Bitcoin or like BNB or whatever. We used Bitcoin because that was kind of a fun thing to do. And so we ended up with the trip paying like 90% of the stuff in Bitcoin. So it was a pretty neat experience. That was what I was doing at the bottom of the bear market, like, instead of giving up and going, it's all gonna go away and I should quit and go back to my bit. No way, man, I'm going all in. We're going on a trip to Australia and spending Bitcoin. Screw it,
Yeah, that's like kind of like the Bitcoin family. I don't know if you know Didi Taihutu and the Bitcoin family, that type of vibe. They're just living off of it and spending it everywhere, especially so early. Yep. And doing that at the bottom, people would typically be so mad at you. Why are you spending your Bitcoin at the bottom? You should be hodling for the rest of your life. But guys, like, this is cryptocurrency. Like, that's the end of the word. It's not just crypto, it's currency.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to use crypto to live. And you could take profits or, exchange for one thing or another. That's the whole point of the thing. So I definitely appreciate you doing that and just actually like using the network as it's supposed to be used. Going and, kind of taking a vacation with your wife, spending Bitcoin. You're married. Does your wife, like, was she on board with Bitcoin from the beginning, or was there a little bit of easing into it? Because usually women are typically more conservative, and, a husband coming in and talking about crypto, usually they're like, whatever.
I think she was pretty supportive right from the get-go. She's like, all right, if you think this is going to be something big, I support you in doing that. Okay. If you think this is
Stellar.
going to, I mean, there was definitely moments when she's like, are you sure this is the right decision to make? I'm like, yeah, we're going to, okay, then I support you. It's fine. So
Great wife.
she's been very supportive through the whole process. Yeah.
That's amazing. And do you guys have children yet? Are you guys like giving them baby Bitcoin wallets?
Oh, we got two kids. One's almost 3, the other's just turned 1.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. We have not set up specific Bitcoin wallets for them yet, but they will definitely have some Bitcoin there later on. So
How do you feel about your children growing up in this digital world? Are you nervous for them? Are you happy for them? Do you think that Bitcoin is definitely going to lead the way for decentralization and being able to own, your money? Because in a digital landscape like this, we know there's a lot of enemy technology trying to come in and take all the things that
mhm.
Bitcoin gives you away. So what do you think about your kids and them growing up in this digital economy?
It's a very scary time to be growing up. And I worry for the future of my children because there's so many outside of crypto, there's so much crazy going on.
Oh yeah.
And you look at, okay, well, we're going to be rolling out central bank digital currencies and social credit systems. Like, is that the world my children are going to grow up in? What about like this metaverse stuff that's going on? Like, I want to see my children when they're adults. I don't want them to be plugged into the metaverse 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's crazy, but that's in a weird way almost the direction we're heading in, and it's kind of terrifying. I don't want to have to go into the metaverse to see my kids, right? So I don't
Yeah.
know if it gets that bad, but we're certainly trending in a very dangerous direction with technology. And one thing that we're doing as parents, we're basically, no screen time for the kids. And I know we've got some friends that just sort of use, the tablet as like a
It's
babysitter,
so
but I
bad.
feel like it's so bad. Every bit of research
Gosh,
has come
dude.
out on this shows that it's just unbelievably terrible. Plus, I feel like it just sets them up to this sort of long-term situation where that's just what you do. You're addicted to technology and you just go on the tablets and the phones all the
Instant
time. And
clicks.
yeah, that's it. And it's just like, man, I don't know. My kids don't need to be doing any of that stuff. Like once in a blue moon, we might watch a movie or something. But other than that, we read books, we play, we have, we'll listen to wooden toys and stuff and try to take um, that sort of approach. Like they'll have plenty of time later to see things on screens. Like we don't need to flood their childhood with it.
Yeah, I agree because I think, physical touch and like, matching things, is really important. And I think, especially with the iPads, I've seen even family members where I'm like, why are you doing this to your child? Where they're just like, oh, the kid's crying. Let's just put them in front of like this TV and let this random woman on the TVs like talk to them. Like that's weird.
Yeah.
And like I think like the parents, I think especially in an attention economy where even millennials that are parents now, they don't have a high attention span either, for a lack of better words. So they're just like, how do I
Yeah.
take care of another human being when I can't even focus on what I want to do? So I think definitely I'm with you on that whole thing. I think that we definitely have to, for the next generation, help them and bring them more into the physical world and bring them to nature. And especially you live in New Zealand, better than the concrete jungle of New York City. You have a better shot at that over there. So highlights to you on, good parenting there. But in crypto, I think we have a really good chance of like waking people up and letting people know what it means to be their own bank. Is that something that's important to you, self custody and the whole revolution behind Bitcoin? Or are you just kind of like, let's make our money and whatever?
Get paid. No, what's interesting with crypto is it's one of the biggest growth potential markets. I think you could make a good argument for AI more broadly right now as well. Is going to have a wild decade in terms of growth as an asset class. But crypto's right up there.
Yeah.
And what makes crypto so appealing to me is what crypto represents. I mean, it's nice to make your money in a marketplace that does do all these great things. But I think that as crypto investors, we need to be honest with ourselves that the vast majority of people don't give a shit about decentralization or anything else. They just want to come here and find the hot meme coin and make money. And Honestly, that's fine. Honestly, it's fine. It's an open marketplace. People can do whatever they want. And the people who have a deeper understanding of the space, they understand, okay, I've got to make sure I've got some Bitcoin for a variety of reasons, self-sovereignty of money, all this kind of stuff. So there's always going to be different users within the crypto market. And I think if you went back to like 2017, for example, it was very much more a vibe of, the sort of self-sovereign money kind of stuff. And we were only starting to
Libertarian,
see
yeah.
we're only starting to see really the first iterations of anything beyond that. Ethereum at the time was really just a fundraising platform for ICOs and really didn't have any of the use cases beyond that. But we saw all this other sort of money appear at the time and different experimentations. Stuff like Litecoin was quite popular back then. These days doesn't really have that much of a use case, to be honest, with being able to send a stable coin across Solana for a tenth of a cent. For what purpose? Litecoin. But other things at the time were interesting experiments. For example, we got Monero out of that sort of whole early phase. Monero, man, that's got a use case. That's very interesting technology, right? So for the people who care about this stuff, and there's a lot of great tools out there for you. But the unfortunate reality is that most people coming into the market won't care very much about this stuff. And I look at it akin to something like people who invest in the S&P 500, right? I don't invest in the S&P 500 index for a variety of reasons. And you look at it and people just sort of unquestioningly, oh, I guess buy some S&P 500 index. That's what everybody says to do. And it's safe and it's simple, whatever. Okay, but let's just break down what's actually in the S&P 500 index. And my guess is that half of this stuff is going to go against whatever your personal ethics port to be. You're probably against war, but half the company, like 1 in 5 companies here are war companies. You're probably against, you probably, have some kind of feeling, oh, better environment and stuff. Yeah, but they're about all the oil companies. You're like, I hate big pharma. Yeah, but you're invested in all the big pharma companies through the S&P 500, right? People don't necessarily think about this stuff. They just want to make the money, right? So which
Exactly.
is,
Yeah, like, people do complain about Litecoin because of the price, but it is like, if Bitcoin's inevitable, so is Litecoin. It has the same regulatory clarity. There will be a Litecoin ETF. That's the rumor right now. And,
yeah,
I do think that, like, again, like, it's an amazing piece of technology. Mimble, Wimble, extension blocks, OmniLite, privacy and fungibility is really important. And I think a lot of people are focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum because those are the only two mainstream media really covers. And then they throw in Solana because it's a VC coin, but the network isn't sustainable. But we know like things like Litecoin, the longest running blockchain with no downtime, all that good stuff, which is really important. So I think a lot of these things that, don't have like the price action that people want, or maybe it's a little bit older. I think when more people learn about Bitcoin and Ethereum and what the space actually is, then they have to go into like what's next. Because Bitcoin's expensive, Ethereum's expensive. What are we going to use as money? And I think that's going to be like the real next big question in crypto. What are we going to use as money? And I think we have like a few good contenders in the space. I'm not going to lie. And I just can't wait until that happens. Do you think in this bull market, we're going to see a lot more people transacting in crypto?
I think, yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a lot more people using crypto just more broadly. I feel like this is the cycle where we're going to see huge levels of adoption really taking off.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because it's going to come from so many places. Again, if we go back to 2017, adoption was really only focused on payments. I remember talking about coins like, okay, Dash is going to be like the PayPal of cryptos. It's
Yeah,
got cheap,
Dash.
cheap, privacy optional transactions, all this kind of stuff. And people were very much more excited about Litecoin back then. I mean, Litecoin still obviously has its supporters, and of course, it is the one biggest thing I'd say for Litecoin is it's the master of its own algorithm, which is a very important thing.
Absolutely.
Which is why like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, aside from just being cheap knockoffs, have always sort of struggled because they're fundamentally weak networks that have like a fraction of the total hash power of the main network.
Could be
So
attacked.
Litecoin, exactly, Litecoin's got that going for, and they have had situations in the past. Anyway, we're getting off into the weeds there. But in terms of adoption, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting areas of adoption. See, we're already seeing huge stablecoin adoption globally. Stablecoins have been one of the big killer apps, actually,
Yep.
of crypto. And people are choosing US dollar stablecoins largely. They're not choosing to denominate, in many cases, their wealth in stuff like Litecoin and Dash and Bitcoin Cash, whatever. They might choose Bitcoin. They might choose Monero because it's got a very specific use case in terms of crypto payment coins. But largely people are looking at stable coins. That's a killer app. It has been. It's grown up as a major killer app over the last few years. But what comes next? What's around the corner? We're going to see all kinds of interesting use cases coming out. Decentralized physical infrastructure networks. Those are going to have, I think, a big moment this cycle, without a doubt. Gaming. I mean, what happens when we get a crypto game that, unlike previous crypto games, which are all kind of crap, but like an actual good game, like a really good, beautiful game that gets millions of players? What happens then? You just onboarded 10 million people into crypto and opens up this whole new world of potential. And that's the thing we're going to see a lot of this cycle, is these real sort of use cases, not just connected to some of the very specific use cases we had in the past, but a much broader spectrum of use cases, bringing in a wider array of people that may not have been crypto people, but now they're getting exposure and they start learning about crypto because they're playing a game and they get a token reward and they get an NFT reward. Now they need an Avalanche wallet, and they figure stuff out and they go, holy crap, there's all this stuff going on. Oh, by the way, I saw the meme coin, I should go buy some. And now they're in, right?
Oh,
Now they're
yeah.
in.
Yeah, I think definitely 100% gaming is going to be what brings in a lot of mainstream adoption, because everybody's a gamer at one point or another. Candy Crush on your phone, Solitaire on your phone. There's really something for everybody. And that's what I love about, crypto, because it's so inclusive of, the finance bros, the gamer bros, and just everybody, anyone in the world. Like, there is a use case for crypto for everybody. Coupons at Costco, that's going to be an NFT. Everything's going to be tokenized,
Absolutely.
which again could be good and it could be a little bit iffy depending on the technology you're using. But overall, do you have any tips on, because you've been through many cycles, on how to prepare for a bull market? What are your go-to tips?
Yeah, it's interesting. You need to kind of think about where we are within a bull market cycle. Essentially, the bull market starts from the time the market bottoms, essentially. It's not, it definitely doesn't feel like it at the time. But when we hit $15,500, essentially, we start up from there. And it doesn't feel like it at the time, and everybody expects we're going to go down further, max pessimism, all that stuff. So that's kind of the earliest phase where we're exiting out of this extreme pessimism and all that stuff. Then you enter into this sort of longer term accumulation phase where people are starting to build faith back into the market. People are getting excited again, but we're not at all-time highs yet. We're not hitting price discovery on any major assets yet, but it's a great time to be buying. Now, we've hit price discovery for Bitcoin just by a little bit, but we've hit it. Ethereum, Solana still lagging behind, but they'll catch up before you know it. So once we start getting into price discovery for the major assets, everything starts moving up with it. So I like to call this phase 3 in the market cycle. And this is the time when the most money gets made, but it's also the time when risk continues to increase. So every dollar that Bitcoin goes up or Ethereum goes up in price, it gets riskier to buy. The risk reward equation of buying every time it goes up a dollar changes. You need to understand that. Buying Ethereum at $1,000 or $2,000 had a vastly different risk reward ratio to buying it now at 3,500 or 4,000, wherever the price is today. You have to understand this, right? Because what are you looking at now max gains wise versus what it was max gains wise back then? Very different numbers. So people are going to come in and they're going to see this. A lot of people understand, like, okay, big expensive coins, I want to go and gamble, invest on some of these other things, right? We're gonna go buy the cat coin or the dog coin and all this kind of stuff. So one thing I really think that people need to do, especially new people to the market, if you've been around the market, you're probably going to have some understanding of trying to buy low and sell high and all this kind of stuff. But if you're new into the market, really take your time, because there's so much BS going on in this market. And every day is like trying to drink from a fire hose. There's more coins than you can possibly invest in. It's not Pokemon. You do not need to own them all. In fact, you're going to underperform the market dramatically if you try to have too many coins. You don't need 50 coins. You certainly don't need 100 coins in your portfolio. You don't. You just don't. Okay? You're probably going to do just fine with 10 coins if you're even sort of more just active investor. If you're like really like hardcore into crypto, okay, 20 coins maybe. But that's probably about the extent of it. Much beyond that, you're probably going to start underperforming the market because you just can't keep track of everything. And I know it's tempting, because every time you get online, you're hearing about a new coin that's the new paradigm of money, and it's very exciting. But you don't have to FOMO into everything that you see. So take your time, learn about stuff, figure it out. Figure out if you really do want to enter into that or not. And if you have to have sort of a gambling section of your portfolio for meme coins, which, hey, we love meme coins, tokenized culture, I get it, it's all good. But if you need to have that, make sure it's just a small percentage, because the risk factor is very, very high. And so make sure you're thinking about risk in your portfolio too. Crypto's already risky, right? You have to understand that. But if you're taking too much risk, again, you're going to underperform the market. I know everybody wants to be the guy. You want to be the exception. You want to live the dream. You want to be the guy who buys $1,000 worth of Shiba Inu on day one and then turns it into hundreds of millions of dollars. You're probably not going to be that guy. I got bad news for you. You're probably going to be the rule, not the exception. That's for most people. I know everybody wants to be the exception, but you're probably not going to be the exception. So keep your very, very high risk stuff to a very small percentage of your overall portfolio. Try to have your main portfolio in more solid things that are likely to have good narrative this cycle, perform well during the cycle. That doesn't mean you only buy Bitcoin, Ethereum. In fact, if you only buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, you're probably going to underperform versus altcoins this cycle. But if you're looking at sort of top 100 altcoins, there's a lot of great opportunity in there for stuff that's going to have nice, solid returns for you. And you're not taking the kind of risk that you're taking with some of this other stuff. Okay. Now, a lot of stuff. I just want to mention one more thing real quick is that when it comes time to sell, okay, so right now we're going to see this big markup phase of the market, and that could last who knows how long. Some people are saying it's an early cycle. It's going to be a left translated cycle. The top's going to come in 2024 at the end of the year. Until proven otherwise, though, we're looking at late 2025, assuming 4-year cycles and 4-year liquidity cycles, which really drive everything globally in terms of markets going up and down. That's likely to follow with the patterns that it has. And then we're looking at late 2025. But there's all kinds of other indicators that you can use to try and say, okay, is now a good time to try to exit out of the majority of my positions? Because you have to remember, you either take your profits or the market will take them for you. These markets are volatile, they're crazy, and if you don't sell, you're likely to see most of your bags go down by 90 to 95%, even the best coins. Bitcoin went down 70% last cycle. Ethereum went down 75%. Solana went down 97, 96%, something like that. Avalanche went down 96, 97%. The best coins in the market today. A whole variety of shit coins went away forever, and they're never coming back. Okay, so this is the volatility of this market. I know you're going to be convinced when the top comes in, that's a super cycle. Wall Street's here. It's different this time. This time is different. John Templeton said, the 4 most dangerous words in investing. This time is different. Okay, so remember that. At the end of the day, nobody's responsible for your portfolio except for you. Nobody's responsible for clicking that sell button except for you. If you have life-changing money on the table, change your damn life. Don't write it all back down. Don't give it all up. You don't have to sell everything at once. People make this mistake. I got to sell 100% or nothing. Ladder out, man. Ladder out. When you see these coins that are up massively, take some money off the table, man. Get your initial capital back out. Take a little bit of profits. Pay yourself. Because you know what? I don't care how great you think your coin is. You could wake up tomorrow and the CEO got killed in a bus accident. Coin's down 99%. Coin gets hacked, down 99%. This happens all the time in this market, okay? All the time. So if you are banking your wealth on these ideas, you have to be really careful because it's super, super volatile. So watch for all the classic stuff. Coinbase app in the top 10, preferably at #1 of all downloaded apps. That's a pretty big indicator. Traditional legacy media going on about crypto, late night shows, buying $1 million NFTs. On technical sort of stuff, watch for the Pi Cycle top indicator. There's a great website called lookintobitcoin.com. They've got a lot of great on-chain indicators. Pi Cycle is one of them. You could also look at stuff like the NUPL, the net unrealized profit loss indicator, the MVRVZ when it gets into the pink box. So again, you can go find these charts. I encourage you to do it. Look at some of this on-chain data there. Other stuff, more technical level, maybe you want to look at, okay, what's the Fibonacci saying we could see as a potential cycle peak here for like Bitcoin, for example. So that would be around $210,000, $215,000. Maybe it gets a little bit higher at the peak. But when you see that happen, well, guess what? Altcoins are probably going to peak within the next 2 weeks, and then the bear market starts and everything goes down. So there's a lot of different moving pieces and factors to try to consider. But again, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, no matter how bullish you get, no matter how much of a genius you think you are at the top, you're not. The market will humble you very quickly. And if you don't take your money off the table, the market's going to take it off the table for you.
I love that. I think that's a great line. Take profits or the market will take it for you. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that. I really like that, like very much, because I talk about it all the time that, you know, we're in cryptocurrency. One, like the currency part we talked about before, you're allowed to spend it. And two, like we're investing because we want to be able to live a better life. So if you're investing and you're in a pinch or you want to be able to do something, then do it. Who's going to tell you no? And especially, you know, if you have your bullish and bearish case scenario and you have your bullish scenario, it works out and you want to take profits and do that. You know, I'm really not against that. I love my diamond hands more than anybody else, but you need to live. And that's why you invest, so you could live a better life. So I definitely love that line. Is there anywhere where we could find you? Where do you host daily? Where can everybody find your content? And you mentioned courses too. Where can they find those?
Yeah, so come follow along on the journey, either on X, Lark Davis, or on YouTube, Lark Davis. You can find the main channels there. It's where we're posting huge amounts of educational content for everybody. So come and check it out there. And if you want to go to thewealthmastery.io, you'll find our newsletter and courses over there, which you can check out too. Lots of great free info over there.
Awesome. Okay, all of those links are in the live chat as well as the description. So make sure you guys are clicking those, you're loving those, you're embracing them all, and you're watching Lark on a daily basis because he's been consistent, and we love consistency on this channel. We love people that grind and work hard. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you haven't yet, make sure you guys smash the like, subscribe, share the stream out with friends. Lark, is there one last thing you would like to share with the audience? It could be about New Zealand, nature, your children, touching grass, whatever you would like it to be about. Share your deep and loving thoughts.
Yeah, one final point, actually. We already talked about taking profits, but this is perhaps a very important one, is that no matter how exciting you think crypto is, no matter how much you just FOMO into the market and can't stop thinking about it, don't ignore your health. I did that in 2018, 2019, ignored my health, put on extra weight, felt terrible. Guys, got to take care of your health. None of it's worth it if you can't take care of your health, if you're not in shape. You'll find out real quick that having extra money doesn't really fucking matter at the end of the day. You got to take care of your health, guys. It's first and foremost, top priority. You can't make all the money in the world at the end of the day anyway. So be there for your family, be there for yourself, take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Please go outside, touch grass, get that fresh air, take care of yourself, hit the gym, guys. Hitting the gym is freaking awesome. I love the gym. Hit the gym, embrace it. Guys, if you haven't yet, again, smash the like, subscribe, share this out with friends. I'll be live tomorrow, as always, Monday through Friday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern for the Daily Zest. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much, Crypto Lark, for joining us. I'll see you guys later. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.